Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Marty Anaya, and welcome to the Actors Initiative. And as we are recording, it is March, a beautiful day here in sunny Northern California. And we are going to be talking to some wonderful people. Now, I have to tell you a couple of things really quickly. First off is I want to say come back to our normal host, Mr. Jeffrey Weissman, who couldn't be here today because he's an actor. He's a working actor. And of course, you can find Jeffrey all over the internet. He's the star of stage and screen. But Jeffrey, please come back and host these things because we need you. I'll be dutifully filling in this afternoon for Jeffrey. And while I'm at it, again, you can see the Actors Initiative and many other things that we do at the California Film Foundation. And you can do that very easily by going to our website. It's californiafilm.net. Once again, that's californiafilm.net. And folks, why do you want to do that? Well, first of all, you can join this organization as we support filmmaking, not only right here in Northern California and Sacramento and the Capital Region and San Francisco, but all throughout the state, and for that matter, wherever you are. The folks that we're going to be talking to today, as an example, represent the Screen Actors Guild. And the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, it's two unions that have merged, and we'll talk about that. This is the organization that supports you if you're an actor. So by becoming a member of the California Film Foundation, you learn about things like this. You learn about SAG and what it means to be a member of the Screen Actors Guild. You also learn about how to do things if you're a producer, a director, and I do hope there are some producers and directors that are tuning in today. All of these resources are available to you free of charge, and many, many more. We even have a directory where you can list yourself to get work. All of it free of charge at californiafilm.net. And by the way, lest I'm remiss, you can also, if you are a filmmaker, submit your movie. The call for entries, the final deadline is almost upon us for the 26th annual Sacramento International Film Festival. And you can do that by going to that californiafilm.net, or you can go directly to sacramentofilmfestival.com. We had a very exciting season in spite of COVID this year, and hope to again for the 26th annual. When I say this year, I mean 2020. It feels like the thing is still going on. But I'll tell you what is going on today is a couple of wonderful, wonderful actors. By the way, there is a chat. If you want to submit a question, I'll be happy to relay that. And tell your friends, if you've got somebody who's an actor or maybe a film producer that really needs to understand what it means to be a part of or learn from the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA, then you're going to want to tell them to tune in right now. But without further ado, it is my wonderful, wonderful honor and pleasure to introduce a couple of folks who are instrumental. The president of the SAG-AFTRA NorCal is going to be on the line with us, and as well as one of the members of the board. So we're going to get the inside baseball as to what's going on, and if you have questions about what's going on with the union, how to join, all these kinds of things, we're going to be talking about it and what the benefits are and why maybe you shouldn't join if it's not time for you or if it's not the right thing for you. So we're going to talk about all these things, but if you would, in the meanwhile, please help me in welcoming our wonderful friends, Catherine Howell and Mr. Don Black. Hi, guys. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
It's so wonderful to see you. Hi, Don. How you doing, brother?
Howdy. Great to be here. Great to be here.
It's great to have you guys, man. And thank you so very much for taking part of your wonderful sunny afternoon. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing this afternoon. The rain is broken. I can see clearly now. But you know what?
Isn't that a title of a movie, Marty?
Is it? I don't think anything could be a film title these days. Listen, you know what I'd like to do, guys, is I'd like to start right off the bat by talking about the elephant in the room. And, of course, we all know the reason why we're coming to you virtually and why we can't be in the same room. It has to do with COVID-19 and the effects. Now, I watched when President Biden indicated that by, he thinks, summer, maybe July of this year, we'll be able to all gather together. Not all of us, but maybe a few of us in our backyard with people that we know who've also been in our little tribes, who've also been vaccinated. But if you would, for those of us who are getting work, and bless you if you're getting work, Catherine, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about what it means right now to do work, and what are the protocols that the union is recommending in terms of how to stay safe if you are fortunate enough to get on a set, and what to look for that lets you know that maybe this isn't a COVID safe set.
Right. Well, first of all, SAG-AFTRA and the industry, including the Directors Guild of America and the Writers Guild of America and IATSE and the Teamsters, negotiated with our main employers, it's Alliance of AMPTP, Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, and came up with rules and a whole set of protocols to go back to work. First of all, as of now and for the foreseeable future, you have to get tested before you start work. And the testing is provided by the producer, and you get paid for your time of taking the test. And then I think every so often you have to be retested depending on how long of a job you have. Now, on the SAG-AFTRA website, there's a whole description of the protocols. There's zones. There's zone A, which is where they're filming, and it's the actor and the producer and maybe the camera person. Then there's zone B. I may not have the whole lettering right, but the next zone, maybe think of it as a circle. And then this zone over here kind of comes into the circle a little bit. They kind of cross over. And that's where you would go have your makeup artist and your wardrobe. And there are rules about you can only, like a makeup brush, you can only use it on one actor. They pretty much do that anyway, but that's codified in there. But there's a lot more to it. And so on the SAG-AFTRA website, if you just go on the website, and I just did this not signing in as an actor so anybody can access it, sagaftra.org, and under the question thing, the search bar, you would search COVID protocols. And you can pretty much come up with a whole list of
right. And if I hear you right, Catherine, what I hear you saying is that they're trying to limit contact by putting people in zones or little bubbles,
right?
So that you don't have a potential for a lot of spread, and that if something were to happen, God forbid, that where somebody did get in contact with somebody else who even though they've been tested, even though everybody's been tested. If somebody were to come into contact with somebody, then they could isolate that. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing is set up so that doesn't happen.
Right.
I mean, there's a zone D, I think it is, where anybody can perform their work wearing PPE the entire time.
Wow. Okay.
And so all the people in that zone would be masked and not coming into contact, because the actors obviously can't be masked.
Right.
While they're playing a scene. Well, they could be, just be a different film.
Gotcha. Well, Dawn, we've all heard about the little tirade. I'm sure, I'm laughing about it, but that it was at the set of the latest Mission Impossible movie, and Tom Cruise kind of went off on the crew because he found some people that were congregating. And, it's always funny, and a little bit embarrassing, I'm sure, for the actor when, or for whoever it is, when they get caught on a hot mic like that. But, in this particular case, even though he was berating the crew, he didn't get a lot of blowback from that, because what was he talking about after all? He was talking about, hey, look, we could all be shut down here and not be able to film anymore if this thing, doesn't go well. So, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts about that? First of all, did you hear what do you know what I'm talking about? Did you hear it?
Right.
And what were your thoughts? I personally give him some slack.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been hearing a lot that's been going around about here and there on the set, but you have to keep this in mind that Tom Cruise is also usually a producer on his movies. So he's responsible for the production of that movie. And it's the COVID protocols has been put in place. It's made it a little bit more hard for a production schedule to get completed during the day. So I guess is when Tom got a little bit upset, it was probably twofold. One was that I think for the most part, he wanted to keep the production going and make sure that the safety of all those on the set was maintained. And I think after a point, if people start ignoring it, patience wears off, and I think he was just doing the best that he could do.
No, totally. Yeah, and I don't blame him at all.
Conversely, just one more thing. I just wanted to say, conversely, Yellowstone, that was in production. What they did.
John, you got a friend back there that I think has something to say on this.
Yellowstone, when they went into production, what they did is they built a compound for everybody that was in the cast and crew. And the instructions given to them was, if you leave outside of this perimeter, you're done for. So, that's the two different variations. But it's just basically, I think that's my opinion of what Tom was. I don't blame him, basically.
Yeah. Well, listen, Don, I'm going to let you go let the dog out. And then I'm going to ask Catherine a couple more questions on this, if I could. So, Catherine, you said that the protocols are widely available, and I know that there's a lot of people who are going to tune in today and who are maybe going to watch this in the future. And again, we're recording this right in the middle of COVID, and maybe somebody will watch this in the future, and this part of it, hopefully and thankfully, if that's the case, will no longer be necessary. But just to put the point on it, whether or not they're in a SAG production, they can go to the website and they can get these protocols. And so whether or not, I'm an indie producer, or I'm scared of the union and I don't want to be bothered with the union on this particular shoot, or I'm just doing a small thing with my friends, I can still be safe. And tell us once again, where do they find that?
SAGaftra.org,
mm-hmm.
and then search COVID protocols.
Just that simple, SAGaftra.org.
Mm-hmm.
COVID protocols. Okay, great. And I'll certainly be the first to do it because, again, I haven't been producing. We've had several shows and things that we've been supposed to produce, but if it's not happening like this, we're just not doing it, because I just had a meeting with my board of directors on Thursday, and we had this discussion, and I said, listen, I don't feel it's safe, and everybody was in agreement. But there are people that are shooting, and bless their heart, there are a lot of folks that are still working, still doing this in spite of, and so we really do appreciate you. By the way, folks, speaking of appreciating you, we want to let you know that if you're watching us on any of our streams right now, feel free to ask a question. It'll post up in the comments here, and I'll be able to ask Catherine and Dawn, who I believe has gotten his puppy figured out there. What did the puppy want there, Dawn? What was he trying to do?
Every time there's a FedEx delivery, they have to challenge the delivery person.
Of course. Well, and also too, maybe they wanted to, sound the alarm about being careful. Listen, let's talk. I'm going to change the subject a little bit here, because again, as important as this is, I also want to talk about many other things that are going on from the perspective of the union, and I want to get your guys' opinion on a few things. But also too, not for nothing, but recently within the last year, we just lost one of our dearest and most close personal friends in the world, Charlie Holiday, who was in fact the impresario. So I would be remiss if I did not say that Charlie was the guy that really started this Actors Initiative. I'm filling in here today. I don't consider myself an actor, although I play one on TV. but the guy who did this was Charlie Holiday, and I would like to hear, if you would, from each of you, just a little bit about. I mean, we all love Charlie, and of course, he was a wonderful, wonderful, decent human being. But what I'd like to hear maybe is a little bit about his professional contribution, both in terms of to the union and supporting actors that way, and how he felt about supporting actors and what it means to support actors. He talked about it. We've had him in seminars before, and in fact, a couple of you were on some of those panels where we had Charlie, and he talked very passionately about the need to support actors and what actors do need. So could you talk maybe a little bit about Charlie and his passion, maybe from that lens and through that context?
Don, you want to go first?
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Don has a much longer, I believe, history with Charlie, although I have a very long history with Charlie as well. My history with Charlie is mostly through the union. Charlie's the one who actually got me involved. I was actually on a union committee for Actors Equity, and my work was going more towards on camera, and Charlie twisted my arm and got me on a committee. And that was in the early 2000s. And then from there, I did less for equity and more for SAG, and eventually ran for the president slot. And he was extremely pro-union. I mean, extremely pro-union. He would chew you out if you tried to work off the card, and make you very aware of why you shouldn't do that.
And tell me basically, why was he so pro-union? Give me an idea. I think I know personally because I've been in conversation with Charlie, but for those of us that are watching that maybe didn't know him.
Well, for the same reason I'm pro-union, unless there's some history to Charlie that particularly got him there. But you have no protections if you don't work union.
Right.
You could a perfect example that I've heard is that if you do like a non-union commercial for Uncle Joe's beer, and then at some point in time you're offered it's a union job, and you're offered a thing for Budweiser, you can't do that. Conflict of interest. You've just completely given up your ability to ever be hired for a beer commercial again. Also, I mean, everything you see, everything that's nominated for awards, almost everything, is union. And you are protected in terms of your image. You are protected in terms of your safety, as we were talking about a minute ago.
And if you don't mind, could we just put a pin in that one right there? Because what I'd like to do is talk a little bit more about the safety aspects. Okay. Many people are probably watching this right now are going to be too young to remember the Twilight Zone, the movie, right? And there was an actor and two young actors, actor Vic Moreau. Yeah, he was an old Hollywood actor that was venerated and everybody loved him, but they were breaking union protocols. Now that's an example where all three of the actors should have been protected by the union, but it does also require that people let people know, and in this case, know that you had two child actors that were working way overtime, and that were working when they shouldn't have been, and in unsafe conditions that they shouldn't have been working. And as a result, sadly, it cost them their life. But for every instance like that, where something does happen, there are probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of instances where something didn't happen because either a union rep was on the set. And I can tell you and certainly would never want to throw anybody under the bus or out any productions. But I can tell you just from talking with Charlie over the years that there were many, many cases where exactly that kind of thing happened. And of course, COVID is a perfect example of that. Yeah. Somebody makes you work in an unsafe environment because you're working on a non-union gig and they can get away with doing it. Well, that could cost you your life. I literally just buried a friend as a result of COVID. And it's not just COVID. It could be any number of things. Don, did you want to maybe chime in on that a little bit?
Well, the frustration, I think, comes with the COVID, excuse me, the COVID protocols. From what I've been hearing from other actors, it's they have to go through several steps before they even get to the set, and then they go to lunch, and then they have to repeat it. However, as you just mentioned, Catherine, it's for the safety of the crew and production staff and the cast that's there. And I just thankful that we have individuals or a union that'll go ahead and place those protocols on safety. By the way, Marty, just FYI, if you don't follow those protocols, there is a fine involved. So that's why they're really strict about the COVID. Well, they're very concerned about. keeping you safe. So
Yeah. And again, when you have organizations like SAG-AFTRA, and not just SAG-AFTRA, but IATSE, the Producers Guild, the Directors Guild, that have all been signatories to these safety protocols. Again, COVID being one, but certainly other examples. That just creates for safer sets. And again, even if you're watching right now and you're in Indy and you're thinking, nah, wait a minute, I don't want to get involved with that because that's over my pay grade right now. That's fine, but you can certainly educate yourself just for your own productions, so you can be more professional in your own productions, whether or not you're a signatory to a union contract. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with both of you guys, is maybe just take a little left-hand turn a little bit. Again, I'm going to remind folks that we do have a chat. Most of these things that you're watching on right now, there is a chat. So feel free, if you got a question or if anything sparks for you, go ahead and add your question to the chat, and I'll relay it to both Dawn and Catherine. Guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about just the.
Can I talk about Charlie a little bit? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you didn't get it.
Go ahead, Don.
Is it okay? Okay, thanks. I just wanted to say for everyone that's out there, when I first started working, it was back in early. I think the first role I ever did was in '74 on a movie, and then the next one was in '79. This was up in Bishop. I had nobody up there that I could mentor me. We didn't know anything about walking on a movie set, or what would happen if you were on a set for more than 3 days, or if you had a line or anything. So, I sort of missed out because I did. I had a role in here where I was able to get an upgrade, and I didn't do it. And then, so when I moved to Sacramento, I was more into the TV field with Aftra. And somebody told me down in Hollywood, they said, do you know this guy down in LA? Everybody, hey, do you know this guy, Charlie Holiday? You're from Sacramento. You should know him. I said, I have never met him. So I went and looked Charlie up. I called him, and first thing he asked, he goes, well, who told you about me? And I said, the people in LA. And he goes, yeah, word gets around, doesn't it? But because of that, Charlie encouraged me to start working on the signatory films, and so it's okay to get the experience with the independent films because I do those. But now I do the signatories, and you get a lot of great experience. But working on a feature film that's a signatory with the SAG-AFTRA contracts, there's many. There's many enhancements that you get as an actor, and you also will get a chance after you work a certain period of time. You may get a chance to upgrade to join a union. And
it's funny that you mentioned that, Don, because what I'd like to ask you about is some of the ways that you prepare, not just joining the union, but if I'm, let's say, for example, a working actor, and this is the stuff that Charlie taught us, right? So would you mind telling us? For example, Charlie was always talked about the self-tape, right? And I know that he had a system that he used, the Mosaic system, and that he always encouraged people, whether or not you were in the union, that's one way to prepare yourself to be a professional actor. But he always had all these other techniques. Don, would you talk to us a little bit about Charlie's self-tape technique?
Okay, I want to, before I talk about the Mosaic Acting system, which Charlie inherited that from Jeremy Whalen, who was from New York.
Right.
It's a totally different system than all the other acting techniques that were taught throughout the years. And basically, what it does is it works on your emotions, the emotionology of the actor, and it works on, like Marty said, self-taping. So, but basically, what happens with this particular acting system is that when we block out the scene, we don't block it out the way that I think it was written in the script. We let the actors walk through the scene basically, so we can see how basically we bring the scene to them, and not have them bring them to us. That's what I'm trying to say. And what happens? They get a clear understanding, and I'll tell you, it cuts down rehearsal time by 2/3. And I've seen,
I believe it does. I've seen him do it. I mean, just in the exercise, not necessarily on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've worked with Charlie in over 200 classes, and out of those 200 classes, you can almost pick anybody at the end of the master classes, and they could go on the set and work. I mean, and what we're talking about is when I was working, I was petrified to go into an audition. And what this teaches you, when you're done with the master class in the Mosaic Acting system, you'll be able to go to an audition with confidence and pull it off. And most likely, a lot of Charlie's students were able to, usually get callbacks on that. So
let me, Don, if I can interrupt you real quickly, because I got a couple of questions in here, and I'm going to come back to this. So we're going to move around just a little bit. I want to come back to the self-tape too, because I really think that's another hugely important preparation. But by the way, Catherine, I want to say your kitty is also a good actor. I mean, I'm catching a little sub theme here today of the kitties.
Don had a dog problem. I was having a cat problem.
Dogs and cats, man.
You wanted to get on the screen.
That bumped you off your mark and everything. Okay, a couple quick questions that we're getting from the group, and folks, again, feel free to keep those questions coming, and I'll toss them up. I'll interrupt. I'll cut right in these guys and interrupt.
It's good.
Can you hire a SAG actor on a non-union production, or does the entire production have to be unionized? Catherine, can you speak to that for us?
I can speak to that. It depends on your budget. There are different lower level budget films, and where you would find out about that is sagindy.com. I think it's .com, and we've just come up with a micro budget, which a lot of actors are using to produce their own content. That's like a $20,000 limit on the budget. And then there's a student film agreement. There's a short film agreement. There's a short project agreement. I'm sorry, that's what it's called now. And then for full-length films, there's ultra low budget, modified low budget, and the regular low budget. So there's all these different levels that you can hire under, and depending on the level of the budget, whether it has to be full cast or whether you can just hire one or two.
Yeah. So the answer is yes, but with provisions. And by the way, that was Facebook user. I didn't have a name on that one, but yeah, for whoever you are, thank you for the question. But yes, and SAG Indie, by the way, I had the good pleasure of meeting the gal who started SAG Indie. It is actually a nonprofit. It's a separate organization, but they have done just a wonderful job, and I'm happy to call them friends, because they have done a wonderful job over the past 20 years that I've known about, really trying. Oh, there goes your kitty again.
I know, she wants to get on camera.
She's what color are her eyes? I mean, she's really
big green eyes. She's
really a ham for the camera today.
I think I'm going to have to put her in the other room.
Okay. All
she
right.
gets angry when I'm on Zoom.
Go ahead.
Marty, do you mind if I can answer Glenn's question?
Hang on. Let me just finish this. Let me just finish this answer. So, guys, SAG Indie, you got to go. Just Google it, and you'll be glad you did, because they're your best friend. If you are a producer or a director and you're scared of the union, and believe me, I talk to them all the time. I get these phone calls and Don, I know you do too. You get these phone calls all the time. Yeah, that's what you will do in order to help you understand. And sometimes people don't want to call the union directly, just like they don't want to call the film commissioner directly, because they're afraid that they're going to obligate themselves to something, or they're going to put themselves on somebody's radar. Guys, it's really not that scary of a process. So if there's anything that I can say to you producers and directors out there, it's don't feel afraid to call the union. But if you do feel like you need a little conduit, SAG Indie can help with some of these questions. And speaking of which, yeah, Glenn Koppel asked a question: is there secondhand smoke exposure that's protected in the union? Don, do you get protected from secondhand smoke by being in the union?
Yeah, absolutely. Smoke, water, that's an addition to, that's an enhancement. So what I mean by an enhancement, it's covered specifically under the contract. So now even for background actors, so whether you're a principal, background, or whatever, so that is covered specifically. If you're working smoke, if you're working in water, they have to prepare you for that, and you're going to get extra pay for that.
Okay, I got another question here, and maybe Catherine, maybe you can help us out on this one. What about the zones? What is the rule for union members outside of the SAG zone? Now, I don't think they're talking about the zones.
No, I know. I understand the question.
Teamsters, DGA, IATSE go all the way to the state border for their zone. Why not actors, background, etc.?
Well, actors, principal actors is anywhere. That goes to every border. Background zones, it's there's a long history to it, but basically New York had a huge zone, and then Screen Extras Guild formed and had various different zones, 5 of them. Well, LA had its own little zone, 5 of them outside of LA, and the big New York one. Of those 5, we have 2 of them, San Francisco and Sacramento. And it's something that's negotiated into the contract with the big guys, AMPTP, Disney, Warner Brothers, CBS, ABC, NBC, all those guys. And when the Screen Actors Guild folded, I probably don't need to go into all this. Anyway, so they took in SAG at the time, took in the Screen Extras Guild zones as they were at the time. Now, in terms of working outside of the zone, this is something a lot of people don't know, because we have a whole bunch of members in Monterey where there is no zone. Mm-hmm. And if there's right now, I think there's a fairly large motion picture being filmed there. Mm-hmm. They can work, our members there can work background on a non-union show. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They aren't on the SAG-AFTRA contract, but because they're outside of the zone, they can work that. That's background. Principal, you'd be on the regular contract.
Gotcha. And probably that's putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit, because that sounds like somebody that knows a little bit about it. But let me back up if I could. Let me ask this question. I'll ask it of both of you. How do you get into what's the best way to get into the union if you feel that you're ready? Now, again, we should probably back up and talk about what it means to be ready and when and whatever. But just because this question was asked in the chat, what's the best way to become eligible, and what's the best way to maybe get your foot in the door if you are eligible?
Well, the ways to become eligible are to be cast in a principal role, mm-hmm. And you could be a sister union and like Actors Equity, and mm-hmm. I don't think you can just get in with Actors Equity. Mm-hmm. Back when I joined Aftra, and then I was eligible to join SAG, and then I was eligible to join Equity. So I'm not sure about that these days, but a principal role or as background, if you get 3 vouchers. And I'll quickly explain vouchers. If a producer is required to hire the first 60 people, say, as on a SAG-AFTRA contract, and only 10 of the people there that day are members of SAG-AFTRA, then they give vouchers to the rest of the people up to that 60. That happened a lot with 13 Reasons, because there was a lot of teenagers involved. Mm-hmm. And not as many teenagers background available. So I'm just using those numbers as arbitrary, but that's what a voucher is. And once you've worked 3 of them, then you're eligible to join.
Gotcha. Now, I got another one here. Joseph McGinley asked, is this even a SAG-sanctioned event?
What?
I think he's talking about the broadcast right now. He's asking, is this a SAG-sanctioned event? I received a random text this morning telling me that this was happening. It's not on the SAG NorCal website.
Well, that's because it's a Sacramento Film Festival
California Film Foundation event.
Film
Yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah. And we've invited you guys. And I
And
invited
I'm
Sean
sorry,
too.
did I
Yeah, I invited Sean Taylor, who's the executive director of NorCal, but he's so busy right now. I mean, I understand he's in New York right now. Is that right?
Yes, he's in New York, and because of all the narrowing down of number of staff across the country due to COVID, he's also handling Seattle, which handles Alaska and Portland and stuff like that. But I would not be on here as a 50-year member of
sure
SAG-AFTRA and as the president of the San Francisco Northern California local if it wasn't okay.
Yeah, well, and also Mr. McGinley, full disclosure, SAG-AFTRA is actually a sponsor of the Sacramento Film Festival,
right.
California Film Foundation. So yeah, we do a lot of events that are actually SAG sponsored and sanctioned. But right now, this actually brings us to another question that I wanted to ask you guys, because you always hear about concerns and just, how's the union doing? And there's all kinds of rumors and things like that, especially during a time like this where there's not a lot of work going on. So let me just ask you both, how's the union doing? What's the health right now of the union, and what can you say about that?
Well, I can speak to that. Sorry, Don, I just think, anyway, so as I said, well, due to COVID, we don't have as much money coming in because money comes from dues and initiation fees. So our very wise executive director, national, David White, has handled it extremely well. There's been a lot of cutting down on staff. Some people furloughed, some people laid off. And that's nationally, that's in the national office and also in each of the locals across the country. Now, as we begin to make more, things come back to normal, we'll be hiring some of those staff back on.
Yeah, I sure hope so, because, we need it and we need you guys. And by the way, kudos to both you and to Dawn and to all of the other board members. I got a couple of calls over the last couple of days when we announced this. And by the way, what are you trying to show me there, Dawn?
Well, when you get back to me, I want to answer the question on vouchers.
Oh, okay. So let me introduce it, and then you can, and then I'll let you answer it. But what I really would like you to do, Dawn, is to accept my humble appreciation, because what you guys have been able to do as a board, and maybe anybody that's been involved in any kind of a nonprofit organization or a small organization that is, maybe it's a for-profit, maybe it's a business, maybe it's an association. Like, for example, with the California Film Foundation, we're an association. So that's an all volunteer-driven organization. Even I am a volunteer. And what that means is that you have to rely on people to help and to support. So I just want to acknowledge you, Don, and I want to acknowledge you, Catherine, and I want to acknowledge your entire board, especially the NorCal board, because if it weren't for guys like you and guys like Charlie, bless his soul, supporting the professional staff like Sean, because he is so spread so thin, and with what's going on right now with the fewer dues coming in, it wouldn't happen. So I just want the folks at home to know that Dawn and Catherine and all these guys are really working hard for you guys in order to represent and in order to make sure that you are supported. But yes, to the question, I've actually got a bunch of questions in here now. Which one were you wanting to answer, Don? What was that one again?
It's twofold. I see Charlie was staunchly against people becoming SAG eligible with only background work. And then I wanted to carry on about the voucher because.
Oh, yeah. Talk to us about the voucher. Yeah, that's what you were showing me.
Let me talk first. When I worked as an actor, I actually did it, believe it or not. Most people haven't seen me do it for years because I'm behind the camera a lot. And I produced it, but mostly my love is being a DP and production and technical work. I did the acting just to get into it, to sort of see what it was like, to be in front of the camera. And then I ended up doing about 25, roles on the set. But as you go along, I think the first dozen roles I did were non-union vouchers, which don't apply towards you get, like Catherine explained, in the zone, they have to give out, fill so many vouchers per the zone. If some of the union actors don't show up, then they can give one to a non-union or a background extra. And this is what they look like right here. Here's one from Entertainment Partners.
Got it.
Okay, and see where it says up there, SAG? Right
Mhm.
there, that's the one you want, the box you want
Okay.
when you get it. Now, and that's what it looks like. And then I think somebody else asked about smoke and wet work. And I worked on trauma. I was featured on trauma. And I wasn't under contract, but they give me an upgrade. And you see right there where it says special work plus $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what that is. So just to give you a little background, when you're on set, when you get 3 of these vouchers that say SAG and you're not in the union, then you're eligible to join the union formally.
Got it.
To answer your question, is that's one way of becoming a member of the union. The other is
Real quick, somebody said you won't get eligibility if it's a deferred contract. Is that correct? Or
that's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
Yep.
Yeah. So if it's a deferred contract, and tell me what deferred means for those filmmakers out there that probably just it's going over their head right now.
Well, a lot of these low budget contracts that we were mentioning a while ago, some of them have, instead of saying your pay is 0, it says your pay is X amount, like 125 a day or something low like that. But
Yeah.
it's deferred, and you only get paid once the film actually starts making money and goes somewhere.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. And a lot of people sign contracts like that, or a lot of producers do things like that, because then they're not as obligated. They're not as on the hook for money until they start making money. So depending on your situation, it makes sense.
I just want to add to that. I wouldn't say they do it so that they don't have to pay. They do it because that's the category budget wise that they fall into.
Sure.
And the reason that is available to them is because their budget is like this big, and there's not the money to pay the actors the union rate. So they could either do it non-union, or we could give our actors a chance to have some to practice their craft.
Got it. I'd like to switch gears a little bit here if I could. And what I'd like to do is ask the both of you, and actually, Catherine, you'd brought this up earlier this morning, so maybe you've got a little insight on this. But the California Film Commission had come up with some information about incentives. And for those producers, and I know this is an actors forum, but for those producers that are hiring these actors and that are working with these actors, and that whether or not it's a SAG or it's a deferred or it's a indie type situation, they might also be able to get incentives. What was that you just learned that you read from the film commission
About earlier?
as it relates to film incentives? Yeah.
Yeah. So there are there's a California what's it called? A California film.
Flicks? I mean, you're talking about Flicks?
Flicks, yes. That's an umbrella organization that where all like the San Francisco Film Commission is in
Sure.
that organization, and the
Right.
Placerville or whatever. But they also have a statewide incentive program that people have to apply for. And I'm glad you brought this up, because this is something I think people will be happy to know.
All right, producers.
They just had an article out that the 22 feature films that were approved to get the film incentive extra money this year. Out of those 22, 16 of them will be doing some filming outside of the Los Angeles zone, which is very important for our local.
Wow, that's very
local too, but it's important for our local and one of the goals is to try to get more filming outside of just Hollywood. So that's looking good. It's not It's not going to solve all our problems, but it's more fun.
No, it's not. And there are rules. First of all, what's considered budget wise to get incentives would probably put a lot of people out of it. If your budget is $40,000, you're not even in the ballpark to be applying for incentives. But I do know that some of the local film commissions, including our own here, are really trying to do what they can to add more support. And I know that you're, Catherine, probably going to be talking to folks in San Francisco next week and listening to what they're doing on a local level. Now, of course, I'm just completely scuttlebutt here. This is just, I'm totally 100% just trying to listen to the tea leaves here. But Dawn and Catherine, can you guys do me a favor and tell me what you know about any more filming coming to Northern California? What kind of rumors are you listening? I keep hearing that they're going to turn Treasure Island back into a working studio again, like they did back in the Nash Bridges days. Anybody got anything for me on that? And if you don't, that's okay. I'm just fishing here.
No, I know.
Catherine, let me just say before Catherine, I'm going to let Catherine answer it. But
sure,
the rumor mill is. I just wanted to say, as the pandemic, as we phase out of it, actors be prepared because it's going to hit quick. And Catherine's going to tell you why right now. Okay, Catherine, tell them.
Well, for one thing, I wasn't going to say this, but for one thing, because filming is all of a sudden going back, a lot of the studio space in Los Angeles is filling up. So that makes ours more than ever be attractive. Now, there's a hangar on Treasure Island that Nash Bridges used for all its interiors and everything. And for the past several years, Google has had that space, but Google gave up that space, so that space is now available. And then, of course, his name is Mark Walters. I always forget his name, who's developing the Mare Island area.
Okay, wait a minute. So that is happening. So
this is happening.
Because Dawn and I were talking about this, and Dawn was saying, Mare Island, and I'm like, wait a minute. Are you not talking about Treasure Island? So this is a separate thing.
No,
yeah, a separate thing. They're also looking at some space at Fort Mason. I'm going to be sitting in on the San Francisco Film Commission on Monday. There's an article, Marty. There's an article that was in the San Francisco Chronicle, which a couple of weeks ago about filming coming to our. It was mostly about the Bay Area, but it's about Northern California.
Well, but Dawn makes a very good point, and that is be ready. Now, if I'm gonna take a really hard left turn here because I'm gonna get this in here. We got to talk a little bit about what it means to get ready, right? So
I've got that for you too.
Try to get to this self-taping thing. What is the value of self-taping? If I could just ask each of you, Catherine, I'll just start with you real quick. What is the value of the self-tape, other than, of course, you're going to give it to a casting director? But I mean, but are there any times in which you want to do it other than when you're just giving it to casting director? And then the second part of it for Dawn is what's the best technique wise? I know Charlie had some specific ways that he looked at that, but Catherine, go ahead, and then Dawn.
Well, I mean, I always preferred auditioning in person, but that's what I was used to. The good things about COVID it has brought the self-taping into a much higher, much more frequent, almost 100% way of auditioning. And the good things about it, you can do as many takes as you want and choose the one that you think is best. Whereas if you're in the room, you might blow something, but you don't get a second chance. But this way you can get your best work on camera and submit it. And I've gotten cast that way.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And Dawn, techniques?
Yeah, I definitely can give you that. Give me 5 minutes uninterrupted, okay?
Well, actually, we only got about 5 minutes left, and I got about 3 more questions.
I didn't know. I thought we were going till about.
No, we got to get out. I apologize. We got to get out of here. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it real quick. Just treat when you're doing this for an audition, treat your audition as a job. Be prepared. Study the script. That's very important. SAG rules say that not only the sides, but SAG rule says that the script must be available 24 hours in advance. You want to probably do background and study up on the people that are involved in the production. And there's somebody made a comment, and I want to get on it. be on time. Be on time. That now being on time is not, if your audition's at 2, don't show up at 2, show up at 1:30.
Mhm.
That's being on time. And then remember, when you're doing your audition, the one thing that I want to stress, and Charlie stress, don't go in character. I mean, don't walk into the room in character. Okay, that's very important not to do that. And dress appropriately. Don't. What I'm trying to say, just dress appropriately when you're going to the audition. You don't have to.
Charlie always made a big deal about that. Don't try to dress like you're in the character. You're right.
Yeah, because me sitting on the table on the other side, auditioning folks, in the first 15 or 20 seconds what's going on. So anyway, that's just my tips. And but that one important comment, the director needs 2 things: to be on time, know your lines. Very, very important. Thank you.
No, thank you, Don. And Catherine, again, we've got just a few minutes left, and I will have to wrap it up. But as far as just, when somebody knows that it's the right time to join the union, everybody always asks the how question, but nobody asks really the when question. Talk to me, if you would. I'll start with you, Catherine, and I want to hear your impression on this too, Don. But talk to me, if you would, about when it's time to join the union, because you're going to be paying union dues, and it's going to have to be something that you're putting a good deal of yourself into, and a good deal of time commitment and money commitment into your career and into your craft. So how do you know when it's right for you?
You know when it's right for you when you know when it's right for you. I mean, I know this is a ridiculous thing, and it's not so much the paying of the dues. The dues aren't that much, but if you need to get work under your belt so that you have footage to show, and you need to practice your craft, and you are limited to doing only union projects, then you might want to wait. Now, I went to college, got my BFA in theater, went to New York, and joined the unions as soon as I could, because I just knew I wanted to be a professional actor. But that was my choice. So for everybody, it's a choice. Probably for everybody, your goal is to be a professional actor. You just have to think that I've done enough now, I know enough that I can compete in the field.
That's it. That you feel that you're ready to compete on that level. Got it. And Don, other thoughts on that?
Yeah. My opinion would be, when you know. And how do you know? When you feel confident enough to go to an audition, and that you can knock out, that character part for what it takes, and without hesitation. And I think that's the time. I mean, if you're going in and nervous all the time, like I was in auditions, it wasn't right for me. But Charlie built me up with these classes to give me a lot of confidence. How did I get that? He made me get up in front of the class because he knew I was shy and didn't want to do it. He made me read and get up and do the lines. I was like shaking like a leaf. But what I did is, when I went to auditions, I was, getting parts, and I was going, wow, this thing really works. So, and I'm just very thankful. I just wanted to say to that we have people here that mentor you and help you try to get your eligibility into the union. And I might want to say that we have a very good board and a working executive board up in San Francisco. Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't be in it if I didn't feel it was worthwhile. And they do care about Sacramento. Catherine is an extremely good president. She's very caring, and she's a very, very hard worker. So I just want to say I'm very, very happy that I was able to join a union, and now I'm able to say that I am an actor.
Nice. All right. And you know what?
I really thank you, Marty, from the bottom of my heart. I mean, one thing that never gets mentioned is for years I worked with Charlie on the Actors Initiative, and you've opened up a lot of forums for us to try to help out other actors in this area. And I want to say without you, Marty, the word probably wouldn't get out as well as it does. So
Thank you.
bless you. Thank you.
Well, we're all part of the same team. That's what Superman said to the folks over at the prison when he took Lex Luthor in that first Superman movie. We're all part of the same team. But I will tell you this: it does take a team, and it does take a lot of people who really care. And if you're out there and you want to do this as a profession, you got to keep practicing that craft. You got to get into good workshops, and yeah, you're going to spend a little bit of money before you ever even join the union, because as Catherine said, the union dues aren't that much. But guess what? It's like anything else. If I wanted to be a contractor and I wanted to go build houses and put on roofs for a living, well, guess what? I'm going to have to go to school for that. I'm going to have to spend money, and I'm going to have to invest in my own career. Now, that's not to say that every school is cut out to be the same, or that every opportunity is cut out to be the same, but it is to say that it is a necessary part of your evolution, and you got to take it seriously. And with that, I want to say thank you to our wonderful, wonderful guests today, Mr. Don Black and Miss Catherine Howell. Guys, anything else? And we're getting some thank yous from folks in the group here, but is anything else that you'd like to say in parting before we head on out of here?
Well, I just want to encourage one. I want to say, if you have a desire to be an actor or an actress, go for it, because you know what? Eventually, you're gonna follow that dream. You will get your eligibility. I'm telling you, you'll get it. It'll come. So, but and two, just hone your craft. You have to treat your acting career as a profession. So it's like going to work every day.
Yep. And Catherine, any last parting words of wisdom for us?
That was pretty good, Don. I don't know if I could top that.
Yeah, you can't match that one. You can't top that one. Well,
Catherine can top
let
it.
me just say on your behalf, thank you for what you do behind the scenes every day. You too, Don, and to the entire NorCal board. We'll just keep on keeping on. And by the way, folks, if you have any other questions, again, go to that californiafilm.net and hit us up. If you've missed some of this, of course, we'll have it replayed again for you. But again, we'll be happy to help you and get you in touch with all these wonderful people. Guys, thank you so very much. This has been the Actors Initiative. Jeffrey, come back. We need you, brother. We'll have you back next month. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, guys.
See you later.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We'll see you next time, y'all.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
well, have a safe, blessed day.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Go enjoy the sunshine. Thanks, Marty.